Most men grow up believing a dangerous lie that women love the man who gives them the most attention, the most affection, the most reassurance, the most effort. They think love is earned through pouring more and more of themselves into a woman until she finally chooses them. But the truth is brutally different. Women don't fall in love with men who need them. They fall in love with men who are whole without them. The men whose lives carry meaning, purpose, direction, and emotional stability, regardless of whether a woman is present or not. This is not about arrogance. It's not about games. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about something far more profound. A man whose sense of self is complete internally becomes emotionally irresistible to a woman. He doesn't try to impress. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't panic at distance. He doesn't collapse under uncertainty. He brings a calm energy that tells her, "You are welcome in my life, but my life is not built around you." And that is the exact polarity her feminine nature is wired to respond to. Women don't choose the man who needs them. They choose the man who chooses himself first, because he has something real to offer. When a woman feels a man is whole without her, she experiences something extremely rare, emotional freedom. She doesn't have to manage his insecurities. She doesn't have to carry his self-worth. She doesn't have to tiptoe around his emotional triggers. She doesn't have to reassure him constantly. Instead, she can relax into her femininity because his identity does not depend on her validation. The man who needs her becomes a burden. The man who doesn't need her becomes a magnet. And here's the psychological twist. The moment she realizes you want her, not because you're empty, but because you're full, she feels safe. Safe to be soft, safe to be expressive, safe to be vulnerable, safe to invest, safe to love. A man who doesn't need her creates the emotional environment where she actually wants to stay. Because a woman cannot love a man she has to rescue. She cannot love a man she has to fix. She cannot love a man who collapses when she pulls back. She cannot love a man who makes her responsible for his emotional stability. But she will love the man who stands firm in his center, who walks with purpose, who respects his time, his mind, his body, his peace, who wants her but does not need her. And this is where the magic happens. The man who is strong enough to walk away is the man she feels safe to move toward. The man who is complete on his own becomes the one she wants to build with. The man who is not desperate becomes the man she desires. The man who is not seeking approval becomes the man she respects. Today, we dive into the exact psychology behind why women bond so deeply with men who don't need them, and why becoming this kind of man will change every relationship dynamic in your life. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course. It's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month. You join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits. Just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Section 1. The silent energy women feel when a man doesn't need them. Before a woman consciously realizes she's attracted to a man, her body and instincts have already made the first assessment. And one of the strongest emotional signals she picks up, often within seconds, is whether a man needs her or whether he is complete on his own. This is not something she thinks about logically. It's something she feels in the atmosphere of his presence, in the steadiness of his tone, in the neutrality of his reactions, and in the calmness behind his eyes. Men who need women radiate a very specific energy, urgency. Their attention feels hungry. Their interest feels too quick. Their compliments feel like a request for something in return. Their presence feels ungrounded, shaky, uncertain, as if they are looking at her to decide how to feel about themselves. Women sense this instantly, and their nervous system tightens, not because they dislike him, but because his emotional need pulls on her stability instead of adding to it. But when she meets a man who is already whole, a man who carries himself without grasping, without performing, without chasing validation, something entirely different happens inside her. Her body relaxes, her breath softens, her feminine energy begins to rise. She feels the weight of responsibility lift off her shoulders because this man is not looking at her to complete him. He is simply witnessing her, choosing her, enjoying her without demanding anything from her emotional world to regulate his own. This is the silent power of the man who doesn't need her. He doesn't rush. He doesn't force. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't fear the silence. He doesn't treat her attention like oxygen. His calm communicates that his life has direction, structure, and purpose beyond her. He comes to her as a full man, not a half-built one, searching for his missing piece. This difference creates a gravitational pull she cannot ignore because women are drawn to emotional completion the way men are drawn to physical beauty instinctively. The man who doesn't need her shows it in his presence. He listens without trying to impress. He speaks without trying to persuade. He looks at her without trying to perform. He engages without gripping. His interest feels like a choice, not a plea. His attention feels like a gift, not a negotiation. His identity remains intact whether she leans in or leans away. This stability becomes a rare emotional experience for her, a man whose value does not rise or fall based on her behavior. When a woman feels this kind of energy, her attraction shifts from curiosity to admiration. She sees him not as someone who wants her, but as someone she wants to earn. And that shift is everything. Because the truth is simple. A man who doesn't need a woman becomes the one she feels safest loving. And safety is the foundation of desire. Section 2. Why neediness destroys attraction and independence creates desire. Most men misunderstand the true nature of feminine attraction. They believe women want affection, attention, reassurance, and effort. And yes, those things matter, but only when they come from a man who is emotionally independent. When a woman senses neediness behind your affection, it changes everything. Neediness is not about wanting her. It's about depending on her emotionally in a way that places pressure on her nervous system. And nothing collapses attraction faster than emotional pressure. A needy man reacts too fast. His emotions shift too easily. He collapses when she pulls back. He exaggerates interest to compensate for internal emptiness. He treats her attention like fuel, her presence like stability, her validation like identity. Women don't feel flattered by this. They feel burdened by it. Neediness tells her one thing: if I step away, he loses himself. A woman cannot fall in love with a man she feels responsible for emotionally. But when she encounters a man who doesn't need her, a man whose emotional stability comes from within, the entire dynamic reverses. His affection feels warm, not heavy. His interest feels grounded, not desperate. His silence feels confident, not insecure. His boundaries feel natural, not manipulative. His independence turns into something far deeper than restraint. It becomes masculine polarity. Women don't love independence because it makes you hard to get. They love it because it makes you easy to trust. When you don't need her, she knows. You won't break if she needs space. You won't guilt her for having emotions. You won't lose your identity if things get difficult. You won't react impulsively during emotional moments. You won't force the relationship to soothe your insecurity. This creates emotional safety, the foundation of feminine love. And here's the psychological twist. Women interpret independence as emotional maturity. When you don't need her to validate you, She feels she can finally be herself. She doesn't have to protect your ego. She doesn't have to regulate your emotions. She doesn't have to hold herself back out of fear of hurting you. This freedom allows her femininity to breathe. Independence doesn't push her away. It gives her the space to move toward you. This is why women love men who are self-contained, not cold, not distant, but centered. Men who manage their own emotions. Men who don't ask a woman to be their therapist, their mother, or their emotional safety net. Men who stand firm in themselves and in doing so create a stable ground for her to stand on too. Because the man who doesn't need her becomes the man she respects. And the man she respects becomes the man she desires. And the man she desires becomes the man she chooses. A woman will never chase a man who depends on her approval. But she will chase the man who gives her something deeper. The experience of emotional freedom. Section 3. The psychological shift from "he wants me to," "I want to earn him." There is a moment in every woman's mind where attraction shifts from passive to active, from noticing you to wanting you, from liking you to pursuing you. And this moment almost always appears when she senses you are a man she cannot easily influence, a man who is not trying to win her, who is not performing for her, who is not bending himself to fit what he thinks she wants. Instead, you remain grounded in your identity, centered in your purpose, and selective with your energy. This is when her psychology flips. Most men try to earn women, but the men women desire are the ones women want to earn. When a man needs a woman, she feels powerful, but not attracted. Her nervous system relaxes, but her desire fades. It feels like she's already won without trying, and nothing kills a woman's excitement faster than guaranteed availability. But when she meets a man who doesn't need her, a man whose approval she has not already secured, something awakens within her feminine nature. Curiosity, tension, interest, desire, effort. She begins wondering what makes him so centered. Why doesn't he rush? Why doesn't he chase? Why doesn't he collapse the way other men do? Her mind becomes invested. Her emotions activate. She starts thinking about you more, noticing your behavior, analyzing your silence, interpreting your confidence. You become a mystery. Not because you hide yourself, but because you don't hand yourself over easily. Women don't fall for men who expose everything instantly. They fall for men who reveal depth slowly, intentionally, and with standards. Your independence creates scarcity, not artificial scarcity, but natural scarcity. You are not available to everyone. You are not emotionally open to everyone. You are not accessible to anyone who demands it. She feels she must rise to meet your standards, not drag you down to meet her insecurities. And the moment she feels she must earn your presence, her attraction intensifies in a way she cannot intellectually control. This is the moment where women begin investing emotionally first. She texts deeper. She initiates more. She gets more feminine. She becomes softer, sweeter, more playful. She starts thinking about how to impress you. She begins worrying about losing you. She starts imagining a future with you. She reveals more of her inner world, not because you manipulated her, but because your emotional independence awakened a psychological drive inside her. It's the same mechanism that makes men pursue what feels valuable, rare, and meaningful. Women experience this too, but emotionally, not physically. A man who needs her triggers her nurturing side, but a man who doesn't need her triggers her desire, and desire is the gateway to love. She doesn't want the man who depends on her energy. She wants the man whose energy makes her want to step closer. Section 4. Why her feminine side only comes out with a man who doesn't need her. Every woman carries two versions of herself inside, the guarded, self-protective version and the soft, feminine, emotionally open version. The first is the one she shows to the world. The second is the one she reserves only for a man whose presence makes her feel safe enough to surrender, not physically, but emotionally. And here is the secret most men never realize. A woman cannot access her feminine softness with a man who needs her. Neediness forces her into masculine energy because she subconsciously feels she must compensate for his lack of emotional stability. When a man needs her, she feels responsible for his feelings. She becomes cautious with her words, careful with her reactions, strategic with her emotional expression. Instead of relaxing, she contracts. Instead of being playful, she becomes guarded. Instead of opening, she closes. Her internal dialogue becomes, if I pull away, he breaks. If I express myself honestly, he collapses. If I show my feminine chaos, he won't be able to hold it. A woman cannot be feminine when she is managing a man. But when she meets a man who doesn't need her, a man who stands firm in his emotional structure, everything inside her shifts. She doesn't feel responsible for him. She doesn't feel weighed down by his insecurity. She doesn't feel pressured to regulate his emotions. This absence of emotional burden frees her nervous system and activates her femininity naturally. Suddenly, she becomes softer, more expressive, more playful, more vulnerable, more affectionate, more open. Not because he demanded it, but because his stability created the psychological space for it. A woman's femininity is not something a man can pull out of her. It is something she releases when she feels safe, and the safety she is looking for is not built through intense pursuit, long messages, constant reassurance, or emotional dependence. It is built through self-control, inner grounding, presence, purpose, and emotional independence. The traits of a man who does not need her to validate him. When a man doesn't need her, she doesn't feel like she's entering a relationship where she must be the emotional leader. She feels like she's entering a dynamic where she can finally rest, where she can trust his frame, follow his lead, and reveal parts of herself that only appear inside a secure masculine container. Women crave this emotional polarity more than anything. The dance where his independence allows her softness to bloom. A man who needs her makes her tense, but a man who doesn't need her makes her trust. And trust is the gateway to intimacy. She doesn't blossom for the man she must carry. She blossoms for the man who can carry himself. That's why women love the man who doesn't need them. He awakens a version of her femininity she cannot access with anyone else. Section 5. Why women trust the man who can walk away. There is a truth in female psychology that most men find uncomfortable. Yet, it defines attraction more than anything else. A woman trusts the man who can walk away, not because she wants him to leave, but because his willingness to leave reveals something about his emotional foundation, that he is not afraid of losing her, that he does not depend on her to complete him, and that he will not sacrifice his self-respect to keep the connection alive. This quietly becomes the moment she sees him differently. The man who cannot walk away becomes predictable. His boundaries become flexible. His standards become negotiable. His emotions become reactive. She senses his fear of loss. And instead of feeling valued, she feels pressure. A woman does not feel safe with a man who clings. She feels responsible. And responsibility kills attraction faster than rejection ever could. But when a man remains committed to his identity, even in the face of losing her, his presence sharpens, his energy deepens, his value rises. His ability to walk away communicates something powerful to her subconscious. I choose you, but I do not rely on you. I care for you, but I do not collapse without you. I can love you deeply, but I will never abandon myself for you. This kind of man becomes emotionally trustworthy, not because he's distant, but because he's stable. A woman feels safe with a man who can walk away because he is guided by principles, not desperation. And principles provide structure she can relax into. She knows he won't tolerate disrespect. She knows he won't stay in a situation that diminishes him. She knows he won't lose his sense of direction for temporary affection. This makes her feel something she rarely feels: respect. Women fall in love with men they respect. They fall into relationships with men they don't want to lose, and they open their hearts to men whose presence feels both steady and selective. When a man doesn't need her, his validation comes from within. His decisions are not based on fear. His emotions do not fluctuate with her mood. His self-worth is independent from her approval. This frees her from the burden of being his emotional lifeline and allows her to relax into a more natural feminine state. She can focus on connection instead of caretaking. She can express emotion without worrying he'll crumble. She can be honest without fearing she'll break him. His ability to walk away is not abandonment. It's strength. And strength, more than charm, more than looks, more than status, is what makes a woman's heart feel safe. Because she knows that if he stays, it's by choice, not by dependency. A woman loves the man who doesn't need her because she knows his love comes from desire, not emptiness. She knows his commitment is intentional. She knows his affection is genuine. She knows his presence is earned, not owed. And in that clarity, her admiration turns into trust, and her trust turns into attachment. Section 6. Why women feel emotionally safe with the man who stands alone. A woman may admire many men. She may be attracted to several. She may enjoy the attention of countless others. But she only loves the man around whom she feels emotionally safe. And the man who creates that safety is almost always the one who stands strong on his own. The one who is not afraid of silence, not afraid of solitude, not afraid of walking his path without constant approval. This emotional independence becomes a sanctuary for her. It creates a space where her feminine nature can finally breathe. The man who stands alone doesn't isolate himself. He centers himself. His solitude isn't loneliness. It's stability. He has a purpose, a mission, a sense of identity that does not disappear when a woman enters his life or when she leaves it. She feels this in the way he moves, in the way he speaks, in the way he listens, in the way he doesn't overreact, in the way he doesn't rush to fill every quiet moment with nervous energy. His stillness becomes her safety. Women open to men who don't crumble. Women love men who don't cling. Women trust men who don't need saving. Because here is the truth. Most men never hear. A woman does not want to be your foundation. She wants to join you on the one you already built. When a man relies on her for emotional stability, her instincts shift immediately. She becomes cautious, tense, careful. Her nurturing side activates, but her attraction weakens. She feels that if she steps wrong, he collapses. If she pulls back, he spirals. If she expresses her true emotions, he becomes unstable. And no woman feels safe loving a man who is fragile in the places she needs him to be strong. But the man who stands alone, he doesn't pressure her. He doesn't panic at distance. He doesn't demand constant reassurance. He doesn't reshape himself to be accepted. He doesn't need her to regulate his inner world. Instead, he brings emotional neutrality. The calm that exists when a man is living in alignment with who he is. The calm that says, I want you here, but my life does not collapse if you walk away. This calm is not indifference. It is strength. And strength is what makes a woman soften. Around this man, her guard lowers. Her voice becomes lighter. Her feminine energy rises naturally. Her authenticity increases. Her affection becomes more genuine. Not because he controls her, but because he doesn't try to. Not because he withholds love, but because his love is not fueled by fear. His independence gives her emotional space. And emotional space is the birthplace of feminine desire. When she sees that you are capable of walking alone, she suddenly wants to walk with you. When she sees that your life is meaningful without her, she wants to be a meaningful part of it. When she sees that you can hold yourself steady, she finally feels safe enough to let you hold her, too. This is why women love the man who doesn't need them. He gives them the one thing every woman secretly longs for, a safe place to be vulnerable. In the end, everything you've learned comes down to one simple truth. Women don't love the man who depends on them. They love the man who chooses them. The difference is enormous. One comes from emptiness. The other comes from abundance. A man who needs a woman comes from a place of emotional hunger, instability, and fear. A man who doesn't need a woman comes from a place of strength, purpose, identity, and self-control. And women feel this difference immediately. The man who needs her signals, "Without you, I break." The man who doesn't need her signals, "With or without you, I'm whole." One makes her feel responsible for his emotions. The other makes her feel respected by his boundaries. One turns her into a caretaker. The other turns her into a partner. One pulls her into masculine pressure. The other invites her into feminine fullness. A woman cannot love freely when she feels she must manage a man's emotional world. She cannot open her heart to a man who collapses every time she pulls back, questions something, or expresses her emotions. She cannot relax into a relationship where she must become his stability because he cannot hold his own. Love cannot grow in an environment where the man's need replaces his strength. But the man who doesn't need her, he creates the emotional climate where her feminine nature blossoms. He makes her feel safe to be soft, expressive, vulnerable, playful, affectionate. He doesn't lean on her. He stands beside her. He doesn't pressure her. He inspires her. He doesn't chase her. He attracts her. He doesn't break when she steps back. He stays grounded. He doesn't seek validation. He offers presence. She loves him not because he is distant, but because he is centered. She loves him not because he withdraws, but because he knows how to stay calm in silence. She loves him not because he is mysterious, but because he has depth. Depth built from purpose, not desperation. His independence makes her feel emotionally free, and emotional freedom is the foundation of feminine love. This is why women love men who don't need them. They feel the difference between a man who seeks completion through her and a man who shares his completeness with her. She wants to be part of a man's world, not the reason his world exists. She wants a man who can walk alone, not one she has to drag. She wants a man whose sense of self is unwavering, because that is the man she can trust with the most fragile parts of herself. In the end, it's simple. The man who needs her pushes her away. The man who doesn't need her pulls her in. And when a woman finally meets a man who can stand alone, she doesn't want him to. Because loving a man who doesn't need her is the rarest, safest, and most thrilling love she will ever experience. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at the link below. Enroll once, grow forever.